Hey guys, what's going on? This is Derek Mitchell, and welcome to episode 20 of my 30-day Facebook Live challenge, where I'm trying to go live every day for 30 days. We're almost done, almost to the tail end of it. We made it 20 days so far, which is amazing. Come a long ways, tried a lot of different things, and I think I'm finally getting to where I almost know what I'm doing. So I hope you guys have enjoyed these. Tonight, what I want to talk about is what to do when a client likes the design or the comp that you hate. And hopefully you're only sending them stuff that you like, but every now and then, they're gonna pick the one design that's on there, that's on your artboard, that you're like, I hate that one. Why did I even show them that? So what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to talk about a few ways that I handle that, as well as walk through some of the samples of the artwork that I've done in the past, and just kind of give you an idea of how I approach things. So one thing I should do, let me sign on to my Facebook page here so I can get your comments as well. But it's going to be fun. I'm going to tell you a story, too, about one way that I try and curve all of that in general. So it should be fun times. Boom, there we are. Okay, cool. So clients, those silly clients. All right, so, I guess if they pick the design that you hate off of the comps that you send them, at least they picked something. It could be worse, right? I mean, maybe they say we hate them all and you're fired, right? So, I mean, I guess you do have that going for you. They actually picked something. You're headed in the right direction. So, what do you do, or how do you approach that? And one thing that I would always try and keep in mind is sometimes I call myself a graphic assembler, not just a graphic designer, but literally a graphic assembler, because I've had a lot of clients in the past who, for better or for worse, basically wanted to sit over my shoulder and tell me what to do. I'm basically a pixel pusher at that point. And honestly, I don't really mind. I have most of my design friends are like, I can't believe you let them do that. Like they're appalled, and like, I would never let a client sit behind me and tell me what to do. And I get that. I mean, most of us probably feel that way in that sense of pride. But this is really honestly turned into a career where I love helping people. And so if that means that I'm becoming, an extension of their hands to get this done because I know how to do the software, then I'm all for it. So sometimes I literally have had clients come and sit right next to me. And in fact, I had one client that was based out of New York. So I'm in Montana, they're in New York. Obviously, there's a lot of space between us. And we did a screen share, and I literally sat on the screen share for almost 2 hours going through every iteration that she wanted. And I'll show you what that one was about here in just a second. So, the other thing that I do that I try to incorporate is this thing called the hairy hand. Have you guys heard of this before? I heard about this in college. So basically, the other thing that can happen is rather than picking like the one thing that you hate, they pick one, but then they keep wanting to change it and change it and change it and change it. And you have lots and lots and lots of versions, lots of iterations, and I'll show you that as well. But the story about the hairy hand, the way that plays out. So back in the day, there was, and I might be butchering the story. If you know the story for real, go ahead and comment below, whatever. But the way that I heard it is there was the king's painter. So back in the day, before that photography, right, they had to paint their portraits. And the guy would, paint this brilliant painting, show it to the king, and the king would kind of be like, oh, it looks great, but we need to change this, or we need to change that, or whatever. And, finally the painter got fed up, and he just painted this crazy hairy hand. So you got this king portrait, right, but the hands are just gross, just hairy, right? And so he goes to show the king, and the king's like, wow, this is amazing, but all those hands, those are so hairy, can you fix it? So he's like, yeah, I can fix that, no problem. He takes it back, he paints the hands better, brings it back, and the king's like, oh, I love it, that was perfect, and he's happy. So if I told this story right, the moral of the story is that clients like to be involved in the process. So half the time you'll show them something that's almost perfect, and they feel like they need to kind of contribute to the process. I mean, after all, it is their company, it's their baby, it's the thing they've been working on. So they're going to be emotionally attached to this and involved in the process. So sometimes they're not nitpicking at the design because it's not already good or because they don't like what you've done. They're nitpicking because they feel like they need to control the situation a little bit, and they need to feel like they made a difference in that process. So that can get you in trouble especially if you're a fairly good designer and your first looks are pretty good. They're going to have a hard time being like, yep, that looks great, especially if they're paying you a lot of money. So that's another thing we can talk about. I should actually write that down. Let me write that down real quick so we can remember it. Basically, let's see. Hold on just a second. So basically the point is, like, if they paid you lots of money, they expect it to take lots and lots of work, really. But what you're providing is a value. So even if you did it in 5 seconds, like, there's some worth there, especially if it took you years to create that and to craft that. So what can happen is if you deliver a fairly good look pretty quickly, they're going to be like, oh, how much am I paying you? And they feel like you have to earn it almost. In fact, I've had a client tell me that they felt like I had to earn it. And I was like, okay, so that's a whole nother story. But that's the mentality a lot of times of clients coming into a project with you. And a lot of times it's just uneducated. They just don't understand the process, or again, they're very emotionally tied to this project. It's more than just a factual business transaction for them. They've got their a lot of times, especially if it's an entrepreneur, they've got their personal money on the line to make this happen. Some of our favorite projects have been where it's a bigger business or a corporation, and they actually have a designated marketing budget and a designated marketing team, and that removes so much of the emotion from it. It becomes factual. It becomes fun because you guys can really do your research, know that there's a budget for it, and you can just dive in. Whereas when it's a mom and pop shop, or it's the solopreneur kind of guy, like, it literally is his paycheck that he's now giving to you to try and make something. So they're going to really try and guide and direct you. So that's the whole hairy hand thing. That's what we do sometimes, and sometimes it bites us. So you make this hairy hand quote, hairy hand part of the design, and they're like, oh, I love it. And you're like, no, wait, you weren't supposed to like that. Now what do you do? So either you didn't make it hairy enough, or you got to kind of backpedal a little bit at that point. The other thing with that is realizing you're the expert. You're the one that's hopefully gone to a lot of school or watched a lot of tutorials or just have had a lot of time behind the wheel getting good at your craft. And now you're probably at the beginning phases of this, so you're going to learn to become comfortable there. But as you become more comfortable, you have to learn how to push back to people gently but firmly and say, I respect your opinion. I know that and also let them feel included. Like, let them know, like, I value your feedback. This is your industry after all. I'm just learning about it. But when it comes to the artistic side of this, you might tell them, look, Papyrus just isn't a great font to use right now. And you can explain to them all the reasons why. If you don't know why, let's circle back to that whole issue. But I'll have to say, like, don't forget, you are the expert when it comes to convincing a client that you've presented a strong design and you think it's the one that you want them to use. So that's the other point there. So let's go ahead and dive in and take a look at just a couple canvases. I have some different artboards, the projects that I have. These are a few years old, so don't judge me too hard on my design skills with these. But there were specific projects that either went well or that were terrible, and to kind of show you what happened in the process. So let's just go ahead and dive into that real quick. So, all right. So this first one. So let's see. Okay, so this was for that marketing company based out of New York, and I don't want this live to go forever long, but really, really long story short, based on some very direct feedback that we got from the client, this is what we presented for the looks. So presented that and didn't go over super well, which was kind of confusing to us. And I say us because at this time it was me and a couple other designers kind of bouncing ideas off of each other. A couple of the guys that worked with me, and so we were kind of like, okay, whatever, like, we literally did exactly what you told us, but sure, okay, fine, whatever. And so then we designed another one, and the reason, so you can see we went from like having, basically, there's not really 7 unique different looks here. These are just numbered, so I don't know how well you can see this on the live cast, but these are just numbered, so we have something to talk about. Now keep in mind, this client is multiple states away, thousands of miles away. So that way we could be on the phone or on a screencast or whatever and say, hey, look, for number 1, and like, oh yeah, row number 1, I see, okay. So I can see the blue you're talking about in that first one or whatever. Or in row number 2, you can see how I added the little diamond flame mark thing, right? So it made it easy for us to communicate. So again, it's not like there's 7 different versions. It's just numbering different assets on the artboard so we can have something intelligent to talk about. So, okay, great, whatever. Let's keep going here. So then artboard number 2, one of the big things that she was struggling with was, well, I don't like the color, and she was I'm trying so hard not to talk bad, but all of that to say, like, we're like, yeah, we'll do whatever you want. Like, we're happy to help. You're paying us, whatever. And I think a lot of times where we get frustrated as designers is when we feel like we've worked well above and beyond what we're getting paid for. Like if you're getting paid $1,000,000, like I'm going to do whatever the heck you want. Like it doesn't even matter, right? If I'm getting paid $100, well, there's a limit to the time that I can give you, right? So in this case, we were definitely already like not even second comp in, running way over budget. So we were trying to kind of appease the requests, but not go over budget. So anyway, so we had started throwing out some different color swatch ideas and kind of went over the top. It's a whole nother thing we should talk about. Back to that thing I talked about a couple nights ago where we present, like Apple has the low, medium, and high. With our company, we present like the Vespa, the Chevrolet, or the Cadillac as far as the type of design packages you can get from us. And it's more of a mental thing, right? If you give them more options and they know what to do with, a lot of times it'll just add more confusion to it. So we usually try to keep it to between 3 to maybe 5 comps max. Some people prefer to see more, but for the budget that our clients typically have and the time we have, and again not overwhelming them, like I said, about 3 to 5 looks. So here's a few different layout ideas. Now it's funny looking at stuff I've done. This was years ago. I would not show color this soon. I would not show anything other than black and white. And the reason why is because there's just too much to look at here. There's so much to look at. So we obviously did this to ourselves, but part of that is we were trying to define the style. We were trying to define how it felt. We were trying to define artistically the look and everything on top of the actual mark itself and what the mark looked like. If I had to do this all over again, I would have shown zero color, black and white, and dial in just how the shape of the logo looks. Then, once we figure out what that's going to be, then you come through and apply color, apply all these different theme and background elements and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where we shot ourselves in the foot there. But she ended up picking one that she kind of liked, and then wanted us to go through and was very, very specific about the sizing of this thing. So we ended up making I don't know. I look at this now. I know a lot of corporate logos go through so much more than this. I get it. But this is not typically how I work. Usually what will happen, here's an example. So this was a logo we did, and the client was very specific. We knew exactly what they wanted, and we basically nailed it like in the first look. So it doesn't always happen, but that's the other extreme. Like when you really listen to a client, when they're very specific and clear, like you can do really well. They can make... or you can make a great living doing things by getting paid really well because you've done it fast, but you're getting paid well. For them, maybe even you give them a break because you did so well. So they're getting a discount, but a really high value logo or graphic, whatever you're working on. So here's another example. So this is for the Dracos barrels. And so basically all I got from the client at the time, so this was a client that now currently hired me. So this is the company I work for, but I got a sketch on the back of a Post-it note or whatever this was, literally of this saying, hey, I want a dragon head and I want it to look kind of like this. And I was like, okay. So found a dragon skull that I thought was kind of cool. Found like a regular skull, just trying to kind of play with that a little bit and kind of go in this direction, which was neat and everything, but way too detailed for what we need it to be. So then I started playing around with just simplified shapes and lines, and then played with this actually, if you don't know let me show you guys. If you don't know who Von Glitschka is, so that's how you spell his name, Vonglitschka. So Von Glitschka is an illustrator, and this guy is the man. Check him out. Check out everything he does. And I learned this technique from him. I think he's even got a killer course on lynda.com, Lynda, lynda.com, if you haven't heard of that. Check it out. But he does a lot of really cool logos that, and I don't remember what he calls them or what you would call them, but they're basically flipped, right? So you have the left side and the right side that are basically cloned, mirrored, reflected, whatever you want to call it. So a lot of times that's how he works. Like if you look at the Star Wars logo, right? If we cut that right in half, the right side and the left side are identical, right? So he does a lot of that in his work. And so I was inspired by that. I watched a tutorial or, I don't know, saw something. And I was like, hey, I'm going to try that. So that's basically how I approached this Dracos logo. And did a bunch of stuff, added the horns and all the crazy fangs and stuff. It just got real busy real quick. And so then I kind of simplified it, brought in some text, And that is the logo. And then I sent it to them. And again, keep in mind, this is when I was working for them as a freelancer. So, and they liked it and they picked it. Like that was the workflow for me for this project. And so it's like, well, how do you even begin to bill for this? I think it probably took me between the meeting, start to finish, and packaging, like maybe 5 hours. Like you figure an hour for the phone call / meeting about, hey, what are we going to do? About an hour to kind of get to where I figured out what I wanted to do here. Maybe another hour to kind of polish it up, send it to them, email them, and then about another hour to export it. So, I mean, all said and done, it was a really, really fast project. So you can see how that's how it can be so difficult to price your logos, because some days you're feeling it and you do really good. Other days it sucks and it's miserable, and now you just spent like a 40-hour work week on a logo that a client hates. So I hope that helps you guys kind of see where I'm at with how I do things. What I want to do now, if you haven't already, let's see here. There it is. So if you haven't what, Derek? Just tell them. Just tell them. There it is. All right. If you have not joined my, let's see. I'm sorry, I'm losing my mind. It's the end of the weekend. Late. I've got a logo design course. Wow. I need some coffee, but it's late. I should not drink coffee. I've got a course called Graphic Design Bootcamp, and you all already know that because you're in the Facebook group. That's not what I'm trying to say. There it is. Quickly batch and export logo files for clients. That was difficult. That was awful. I'm so sorry. All right. This course on udemy.com. Quickly batch, export, and package logo files for clients. Did I make that title up? That is so long. Anyway, that's what it's about. I go through and I teach you exactly how I package up my logo files. And what I want to do tonight, if you don't have that already, there's a code right here, DM YouTube free. So for those of you watching this on YouTube right now or on a Facebook group, you can go to udemy.com, and I'll paste a link down below so you can see it. It should automatically include that. But check it out, and you can learn exactly how I go through my logo design / export process. So I've got some tips and tricks there. I hope it helps you out. Just wanted to give you a quick freebie as a thank you for joining and for watching and for hanging with me. I really appreciate you guys. And let me just check my notes real quick before we wrap this up to see if there's anything else I wanted to tell you tonight. I think that was it. I think that was all. Let me check the comments feed real quick to see if there's anything there. Probably not because it's late, but that's okay. So just, well, hey, it's me. Let's mute that. Maybe. All right. Hey, what's up, Gabriella? What's up, Dustin? Good to see you guys. What's up? I don't know, Rivar, did I say your name right? Good to see you. Thanks for hanging out. Okay, so let's see. Dustin says, are you talking about what I sent you? LOL, that's funny. No, I'm not, but I could have been. And good morning, Gabrielle. What time is it? What time is it right now? I don't even know. I turn my clock off when I do tutorials and when I record them, so I can never tell. Okay, so it's 10:30 my time right now. But I always turn my clock off in the... Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm losing all of my words. This is tail spinning fast. Anyway, so I always go to time.is to see what time it is. Justin says, I always thought if it looks great in black and white, it will be good. I don't always agree with it. The reason why I always go black and white is two very specific reasons for me, at least. The first is, at its simplest form, a logo needs to be able to be represented in one color. And the reason why is, let's say you wanted to do like a frosted glass on your office window, or a one-color vinyl on the side of a vehicle, or embroidered on a T-shirt, or lasered onto a golf ball. Like, if there's a lot of ways that companies like to use their logos. And so if it doesn't work at its simplest, purest form, it's not going to work, no matter how many drop shadows and gradients and crazy stuff you put into it just to get it to sell to the client, right? So that's why I start basically in one color. And then the second reason, kind of stems back to the whole confusing the client with too many options thing. Like if they're only looking at the shape of it, even if it's terrible, it helps them define that much quicker than being put off. Let's say, so here's a good example. Let's say you've got one shape that's just stellar, like it's killer. You've got it, you nailed it. But let's say it's in pink or something, and the client hates it. And then another one you do, in blue, and they like the blue one because they like blue, but the shape isn't as good. Now you've confused the issue a little bit. So that's why I'm trying to simplify without colors first. So that way colors can be done from a more, actually, do I have that book up here? I think I don't. I've got a really cool book on color. I think it's downstairs in my other office. I've got a really cool book on color that teaches you like the not only the theory behind it, but basically when we see the emotions that come from color. So for example, when we see red is a very passionate color. So it can mean passion, it can mean lust, it can mean fight or flight. So as far as like primal instincts of like red is blood. So, are you going to stay and fight or are you going to run away? And then there's other colors too, like black and white. So in Asian culture, white is like a representation of the afterlife, right? Where white in the States is a sign of like purity, and we see them at weddings and stuff. And then black here in the States is your death, or also could be classy and classic because you've got tuxedos that are black. So there's a lot of things that roll into that color theory as well. So when I do logos, I try to strip those out into two different topics. So you've got your shape you're working with first, and then you've got your color and what does that mean that you're working with second, right? So that's how I usually approach that. We need to go to the coffee shop again. Oh my gosh, I missed that. I told you guys we used to have our office was above a coffee shop for almost 4 years. And every day I would get a mocha or 2 or 3. And so you figure those are between $4 to $5 a piece. So I was spending like $15 a day on coffee. That was just me. And then my wife would come and do the same thing. We were spending so much money on coffee. It was ridiculous. It got to where, though, that's how I learned how to drink coffee black was I learned that because we never technically left the building, if I went down in the morning and got a cup for like $1 or $2, I could go upstairs in my office and come back down and they'd give me free refills all day long. So I drank so much coffee. It was insane. But yeah, I definitely missed that. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for being here, sticking around, being faithful, and putting up with my nonsense as I figure out all of these lives and stuff. It's been fun. It's been good to get better at it, and I'm excited to announce coming up this week, I've got a special guest. We're going to do a mini-series, and I am not going to formally announce it yet because we're still trying to iron out when the stars will align and our schedules line up. But very, very excited about that. We've got some cool stuff coming up this week. So definitely stay tuned. If you're not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, and then also hit that little bell notification so when we do post stuff, you'll get notified. In the group, I honestly don't even know. I don't use Facebook enough to know if there's a way to get notified. There's got to be a way. But make sure you're staying tuned this week, checking in on the group at least to see when we're going to schedule to go live so you don't miss out. And also don't forget to follow me at D Mitchell Design on Instagram if you want to. So that's pretty much it. Dustin, any other questions? Gabrielle, you still here? I guess it's the morning, so you're up and at 'em. Anyway, awesome. You guys are the best. Thanks again. Don't forget, let me throw that code up one more time. That DM YouTube free to get that quickly batch and export logo files course for free. Awesome. Have a great night, and we will see you tomorrow, I think. All right. See you tomorrow, guys.